You're watching KOCO 5. Breaking news is happening now.
Breaking today, just 4 hours before Julius Jones was set to be executed, Governor Kevin Stitt announced he was taking the inmate off death row. I'm Abigail Ogle.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Shambach. Julius Jones, the high-profile death row inmate convicted of murdering Edmond businessman and father Paul Howell in front of his young children. The governor changing Jones' sentence from death to life without the possibility of parole.
We have several crews out today from McAllister to the Capitol, and we begin our team coverage with KOCO's Dylan Richards, who is outside the state penitentiary. Dylan?
Yeah, we're here in McAllister. This is where, when that news came down, there was a crowd gathered that started cheering. This is also where Julius Jones remains this evening. He's being reclassified by the Department of Corrections. Of course, they have to figure out where he's going to be now that he's not on death row. He found out about this decision while meeting with attorneys. It came down just after noon. It was filed just before noon. I want to read you a statement that Governor Kevin Stitt put out just 4 hours before this execution was set to happen. The governor saying, quote, "After prayerful consideration and reviewing materials presented by all sides of this case, I have determined to commute Julius Jones's sentence to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole." Now, something to note here, the governor, the Pardon and Parole Board had recommended that the governor change the sentence to life with the possibility of parole. So life in prison with the possibility that Jones could get out. The governor said he was going to commute to life without that possibility. And he said that the Pardon and Parole Board didn't have the legal authority to recommend that sentence, and he didn't have the legal authority to put in place that sentence of the possibility of parole. And on top of all of that, he also put a condition in place on this commutation, saying that Julius Jones will never in the future be eligible for any commutation, any pardon. According to them, he will not have the opportunity to get out of prison. We confirmed with the governor's office today that that is absolutely final. In McAllister, Dylan Richards, KOCO 5 News. Back to you.
All right, Dylan, thank you. Looking at the clock right now, this is the time when Julius Jones was set to be executed. But again, the governor granting clemency. Let's go live now to KOCO's Christine Stanwood. And she's in the neighborhood where Julius Jones grew up. Christine, I know you had a chance to talk one-on-one with Julius Jones' mother today.
And yeah, as you mentioned, it's 4 o'clock right now, and had Governor Stitt not grant clemency for Julius Jones, his mother would be mourning the loss of her son. But instead, today she is praising God, lifting her hands to the sky, giving thanks to the governor and also God for praise that her son was not executed today. We all met on the front lawn, gathering together for friends and also family, giving thanks. And she said, had it not been for this decision, this idea of over 20 years of waiting, she had been haunted by the idea of watching her baby boy die in an execution chamber. But today, as I mentioned, she's grateful that after today's decision by the governor, that can no longer happen.
Being on top of the world and being under the world. Yesterday I felt like nobody because of some of the things that happened, and I wasn't able to give my baby a hug from my baby. And today I feel like I'm on top of the world. I feel like dancing, shouting.
Yes.
You name it.
Yes.
I feel it.
Yes.
My cup is full.
Yes.
Julius's mom tells me that she will never stop fighting for her son, and that today is a good day, and she thanks Governor Stitt for that. Live in Oklahoma City, Christine Stanwood, KOCO 5 News.
All right, Christine, thank you. Now, Julius Jones is convicted of murdering Paul Howell, and today the Howell family is reacting to the news. Quote, "We know Governor Stitt had a difficult decision to make. We take comfort that his decision affirmed the guilt of Julius Jones and that he shall not be eligible to apply for or be considered for a commutation, pardon, or parole for the remainder of his life. We would like to thank the countless people in the Oklahoma Attorney General's office, Oklahoma County District Attorney's office, and law enforcement agencies across the state for their tireless efforts and unwavering support for the last 22 years. We wish to thank our friends, supporters, and advocates whose words, thoughts, prayers have kept us strong throughout this ordeal. Julius Jones forever changed our lives and the lives of his family and friends."
KOCO's Shelby Montgomery is live right now in McAllister, where groups of Julius Jones supporters gathered ahead of what they thought would be his execution just before the governor's decision to grant clemency, Shelby, and spare his life.
Yeah, and now that Julius Jones gets to live another day, the crowd that was here has now gone home. That crowd anxiously waiting all morning and hoping that Governor Stitt would make the decision to grant Julius Jones clemency. This morning it was full of prayer, but when that announcement came, the crowd just erupted in cheers. There were high fives and there were even some tears. I spoke with an advocate and family friends of Julius Jones, and he gave me some insight on why he thinks Governor Stitt made the decision he did.
I think, because of the community, because he knew that Oklahomans wanted Julius Jones free. Oklahomans didn't want Julius Jones to die. He had to listen to the people.
Is the fight over, or what's next?
I don't know what's next. I know for me, I still believe Julius Jones is innocent, and I don't think he should be in prison.
Julius Jones will live to see another day, but his supporters say it's time for him to come home with his family. Live in McAllister, Shelby Montgomery, KOCO 5 News.
All right, Shelby, thank you. We also have KOCO's Megan Mosley with us right now. She is live at the state capitol, and she was there as the governor's decision dropped. Megan, what was the reaction? Were people shocked by this, relieved? You were there as this happened.
Yeah, Julius Jones supporters have cleared the Capitol now, but when that news broke out at the top of the noon hour, the place was filled with cheers, tears, and relief. Take a listen. And yes, those were people cheering for Governor Kevin Stitt. Many telling me today that it was a good day and that they were happy with his decision. Now, coming up tonight at 5, I will have state representatives' reactions to this and how they also felt when they heard the news. Live at the state capitol tonight, Megan Mosley, KOCO 5 News.
Well, not far from there, KOCO's Evan Onstadt joining us live just outside the governor's mansion. And Evan, that is a place where we have seen crowds gathered all week in support of Julius Jones. Much different scene right now.
Oh, it's very quiet out here right now, Jessica. And, it's interesting. We just heard right now the cheers, people cheering the governor's name in the Capitol. These were supporters of Julius Jones. Not everybody feels that way, and that includes Oklahoma's Attorney General, a big supporter of the governor, John O'Connor, who I sat down with recently. He released a statement this afternoon. He was not happy about this. Now, first of all, to be clear, he says he respects the governor's authority in this matter and that he knows that the governor was doing what he believes is what is best. But he also said it, and I'm going to read a quote here, at least part of it, saying, "We are greatly disappointed that after 22 years, 4 appeals, including the review of 13 appellate judges, the work of the investigators, prosecutors, jurors, and the trial judge," he says that all of that has been set aside. And I sat down, as I mentioned a couple days ago, with the Attorney General, and he told me that he was 100% sure Julius Jones is guilty of murder.
In this case, Mr. Jones is guilty.
You feel 100% certain of that?
100% certain of that. I've reviewed the evidence 3 different times, looked at all the exhibits, and there's no doubt in my mind.
I think it's important to note right now that this really is the first time that we have heard the Attorney General and the governor be on opposite sides of an issue, or at least not lining up exactly. Remember, he was appointed just a few months ago by Governor Stitt, so we'll see how that affects the relationship moving forward. But yes, as you mentioned, very quiet out here, a far different scene from what we saw just yesterday. Last night, an arrest was made. There was a non-violent confrontation between law enforcement and protesters who had kind of set up shop and camped out here in front of the governor's mansion, but a much different, very peaceful setting out here on this Thursday afternoon. We'll send it back to you.
All right, KOCO's Evan Onstadt there outside the governor's mansion. You saw the barricades set up behind him. Those have been there now for a couple of days, just preparing for what the reaction could have been. The governor, though, stepping in at you could say the 11th hour, just 4 hours before Julius Jones was set to be executed at 4 o'clock today. He had already had his final meal last night. And just this all comes after a nationwide international movement to get quote, justice for Julius. That's what they called this, and support from all over the world.
Yeah, the world has been watching to see what would happen in Oklahoma today. Millions of people, in fact, signed a change.org petition in support of Julius Jones, asking the governor to grant clemency, which is just what he did today, giving him a life in prison without the possibility of parole. We'll have live team coverage for you continuing tonight here on KOCO 5 at 5, 6, and 10.